Well, what a wonderful day. I want to share with you just for a few minutes, these few minutes. Today we kick off our next 90 capital campaign, the first phase of our project. And we heard a moment ago a passage read from the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus, the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. And there Jesus asks a question of his disciples. Now I want you to remember that the Sermon on the Mount was to Jesus' disciples, that collection of teachings aimed at Jesus' followers. It says that he took his disciples and went up on a mountain, and there he shared these words with them. And he asked the question, "What more are you doing?" Now the context of that question, and I'm going to paraphrase here, Jesus said, if you love those who love you, big deal. Everybody does that. If you greet those who greet you, so what? Everyone does that. What more are you doing? He asked. That's a question that really pervades the teachings of Jesus. Everywhere, that question is a subtext, if you will, of what Jesus is teaching. Because he's always asking, do you love more? Do you serve more? Forgive more? Trust more? Worship more? Pray more? Care more? And one way or the other, that question is always there. What more are you doing? It's a good question. It seems to me that there are two ways that we can sort of default when it comes to something that with our life of faith. There are two things that can sort of be our first question that we ask. And we may not state the question out loud, but the first thing that comes to mind is the question, how little can I get by with? Or what more can I do? How little can I get by with? Or what more can I do? Those two questions are very different. Now, you've heard me say it a lot of times in other contexts. Nobody bats 1,000, right? We don't always get the question right. But what's the default? I mean, more often than not, think about your own life. What is the automatic thing that you think when it comes to a challenge that you face to be God's person in the world? How little can I get by with, or what more can I do? It affects every area of our discipleship. It's that question that I want us to carry with us into this capital campaign, because a capital campaign is not just a fundraiser. It is a spiritual exercise for us to look seriously at our life of faith and our participation in this community, and to think about which of those questions really guides us. How little can I get by with, or what more can I do? Those questions do affect everything, but certainly they apply, I think, as we go into the capital campaign. You have in your bulletin this flyer, and I don't have time to go through that with you, but I hope that you will take it with you and you will look at the graphics. You'll see what's in phase 1 of our campaign. Let me remind you that the Next 90 project has been in the planning for a long time. We had a building study committee, and then we had, out of that building study committee, we elected the building committee. We did that a year ago this last December when in this room, the bottom floor of the sanctuary was full like it is today. 90% voted yes to move forward with the project in that church conference where every member of the church was invited to be present and voting. And so we moved forward. We elected the building committee. The building committee continued then to do their planning and their work on that. And we put the project on hold, in a sense. Because in February of 2019, we had the call session of the General Conference. It was a difficult and somewhat chaotic time for the denomination, and we felt it prudent not to move forward with the public phase of the campaign right after Easter as we had earlier planned to do. One of the questions was, how would this affect us as a local congregation? And I can tell you how it affected us. Our attendance, 2019 over 2018, for the year was up 10%. Our giving was up year over year. For the first time in a few years, we fully funded our budget in 2019. So the question, how it affected us, it was a difficult time, but we continued to grow. We continued to be the church in this place doing what we do. Now, our mission is not to build buildings. We know that. Our mission is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. We like to say we do that when we love God, serve people, and then lives are transformed. We transform lives. That's our work. That's our mission. But buildings are tools. That's all in the world they are that allow us to do that. Facilities facilitate ministry. And so this Next 90 project, it's called Next 90, by the way, because the first 90 years, we celebrated the first 90 years of the groundbreaking for this building, we celebrated in October. And we're looking forward then to the next 90 years. And it's our turn now. And the question for us, what's the default question going to be? What little can I get by with, or what more can I do to ensure the next 90 years? The next 90 years of confirmation classes. The next 90 years of children's ministries and youth ministries and adult ministries and senior adult ministries. And the next 90 years of worship. This program, the full program, is a central place for community and prayer. The rotunda, a domed, beautiful structure with a prayer labyrinth in the floor. At the center of our community, architecturally, we will say, is community and prayer. And for the first time, we will have an adequate gathering space for us to see one another and visit with one another. And we have 6 services on Sunday morning. If you just worship in one of those places, it's hard for you to be aware of all the worship that goes on Sunday morning on our campus, and then we lease some space over at the Center for Transforming Lives as well for the 11:11 worship service. It may be that if you're in one of those services, you think, well, how could our attendance be up 10%? I don't see that. Well, you don't see it because there are 5 other places where worship's taking place on a Sunday morning. And the Central Rotunda allows us to see one another, to be together, and to find our way. Even longtime members of the church sometimes feel like it's a labyrinth, not the prayer kind, but difficult to find your way. Imagine for a first-time visitor, and everything will come off of the rotunda. And then there'll be the new multi-purpose event space, worship space. Those are all part of the vision, but in this first phase, we will accomplish some of that vision. Part of the vision that needed to be done first in the project anyway, and that's the expansion of the children's building, 13 new classrooms, 3 classrooms that can open up and make one big room so that children can be together in that one big room in the secure space. On top of the children's building, a new HVAC system. We get a lot of new mechanicals in this plan, things that you won't see, but that we have to do. Some of our equipment is obsolete. In fact, we're working on that in the other buildings that we have. We will soon finish the project of replacing all those chillers because the kind of refrigerant used will soon not be available, and so all that has to be replaced. And I'm pretty sure you would vote for air conditioning in August. So you have the new HVAC system, and then Wesley Hall is expanded about 20% larger. It's remodeled. It's reversed so that one enters Wesley Hall then from the hallway and ultimately from the rotunda, and a new elevator beside Wesley Hall, all in preparation for phase 2. But all things that we need anyway, even if we weren't going to move forward with phase 2. It's a $15 million project, phase 1 is. We're in a good position to enter this campaign. I already shared with you what's going on in the life of our church in terms of our growth in our ministries. But we also enter this campaign with $5 million already in the bank with the Texas Methodist Foundation. And we enter this campaign with some commitments that were made early on. And in addition to that $5 million. And now it's up to all of us to participate in the campaign. So in these next few weeks, we'll be thinking deeply, carefully, and prayerfully together as a community of faith. Each one of us, how are we going to participate? How little can I get by with? Or what more can I do? That's the question always posed to us by the teachings of Jesus. That challenging question is always there, calling us as we go to be God's people in the world and as we are together as a community of faith. So I invite you to think about that together in this time as we move toward the culmination of the campaign. That's February 23rd. We will celebrate all together, all the worshiping communities together at 9:30 and 11 here in the sanctuary on Commitment Sunday. Thank you so much. Let's go from this place with Jesus' question in our hearts and minds.